Chapter 1: Everything They Never Gave Me. I always knew my family was complicated, but I never imagined they would erase me like I was never part of them. My father was a businessman, cold, brilliant, respected, the kind of man who believed emotions were weaknesses and success was the only proof of worth. He built an empire from nothing: luxury cars, real estate, a private jet, and of course, the house in the mountains with the panoramic glass walls and the helipad out back. I grew up surrounded by success, but I never had a taste of ownership. Everything I touched belonged to someone else. Him, mostly. He always said, "You'll earn your place, just like I did. I'm not handing you anything. You have to prove you want it." I tried. God, I tried. Worked part-time jobs during college, lived in a shoebox apartment to save money, studied like my life depended on it. I thought he respected that. At least that's what he used to say during those rare moments we actually talked. But the truth hit like a bullet to the gut when the will was read. He left everything to my sister. The cars, the apartments, the company shares, the vacation house, even the damn helicopter. All of it neatly wrapped up in her name. And me? I got a 3-sentence letter. "You've always been strong enough to make it on your own. That's why you'll be fine without this. Your path will be different, but it will be yours." That was it. No trust fund, no backup plan. Just a folded note telling me to walk alone. My sister didn't even look at me during the reading. She just sat there, calm, polished, perfect. She had never worked a day in her life. She never had to. But she smiled like it was only natural that everything should belong to her. I walked out before they finished reading the rest. I didn't want to hear the breakdown of assets. I didn't want to know what else I didn't get. At home, if I could even call that one-bedroom rental a home, I stared at the wall for a long time, numb. It wasn't just the money. It was the feeling of being disposable, of being written off by your own blood. I thought I could handle it. I really did, until she came in. My girlfriend, Rachel, stood by the door holding her phone like it was a weapon. Her arms crossed, her mouth tight. "You heard about the will?" I asked, barely looking at her. She didn't answer right away, just stared at me, then said the words that felt like being stabbed while already bleeding out. "I can't do this anymore. You're not who I thought you'd be. You're not going to be someone." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She kept going. "I need security, a future. And you're just a guy with a name and no backing now. You don't even have your family's respect." She paused. "I'm going to your friend Marcus." I stared at her. She nodded like she was doing me a favor. "He's got money. He knows where he's going. I told him today that I want to be with him." The silence between us buzzed louder than anything. And then she left. Just like that. Gone. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus. I didn't want to answer. I wanted to throw the phone through the wall, but something made me press the green button. His voice came through, confused and shaky. "Dude, I don't know what the hell's going on. Rachel just showed up here. He hesitated. "She was acting crazy, said she was mine now, that she'd do whatever I said, that you were a broke loser and she'd never go back to you." Silence, he continued, his voice low. "I told her to leave. She did eventually. But bro, are you okay?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was tight, my chest even tighter, and then he said something I didn't expect. "You know what, man? Screw all of them. I've got something for you. I've been looking for someone to run one of my properties. Full operations. It's out of state, but it's solid. $200,000 salary. You'd be in charge." I blinked, sat down, tried to breathe. "Think about it," he said. "You don't owe anyone anything anymore. This could be your shot." And for the first time in days, I felt something stir inside me. Not pain, not rage, but the smallest flicker of possibility. I lost my family. I lost the girl. But maybe I hadn't lost everything. To Chapter 2, Nowhere But Forward. I didn't say yes right away. I spent the whole night staring at the ceiling, the words echoing through my head like they belonged to someone else's life. 200,000 a year. You'd be in charge. It felt unreal. I hadn't earned anything like that. I didn't even know what Marcus's business really was. Something to do with real estate and hospitality, I thought. He was always vague about the details, but I'd seen the photos. Penthouses, rooftop lounges, luxury retreat centers. The kind of places people like me only went to for someone else's birthday party. By morning, I realized I didn't have the luxury of doubt. I was broke, unemployed, and had just watched my life fall apart from two directions, family and love, in the span of a week. I called him back. "Is it still on the table?" There was a pause. "You're in?" "I'm in." "Good," he said. "You start Monday." And just like that, I was no longer the guy who'd been left behind. I was someone with a title, a salary, a shot at something of my own. Marcus flew me out 2 days later, first class. I'd never flown anything other than economy with a tray table that barely held a sandwich. Now I was sipping champagne next to a guy in a suit who asked me what fund I managed. I laughed and told him I managed reality. He didn't get the joke. When I arrived, the place blew my mind. It was a full-scale luxury resort in the mountains, a hybrid between a high-end retreat and a private club, pools, spas, lounges, private villas, everything wrapped in glass and stone and money. And it was mine to run. Marcus greeted me with a hug, not a handshake, a hug. I meant what I said. I trust you more than anyone. Funny how the guy I thought would be the one to stab me in the back turned out to be the only one who didn't. He gave me the tour, showed me the operations suite, my office, the staff, the security system, the entire damn blueprint of what I was now responsible for. My head spun. He handed me a key card. "You're in charge of all of it. I'll check in every few weeks, but it's yours. Do what you think is right. I'm tired of micromanaging. You've got instincts. Use them." I didn't even know what instincts he was talking about. I hadn't felt confident in years. I'd spent most of my adult life trying to impress people who didn't believe in me, only to lose them anyway. But now I had no one to impress but myself. That first week was brutal. I worked 14-hour days learning everything. I shadowed the kitchen staff, walked the property with the maintenance crew, sat through vendor meetings and budget reviews and training sessions. I slept in one of the guest villas because I couldn't afford to rent anything nearby. But honestly, it felt like more home than anywhere else I'd lived in years. And then came the moment that changed everything. I was walking the West Wing corridor, reviewing the guest feedback reports, when I saw her. Rachel. She was standing in the lobby, holding a designer suitcase and smiling at the front desk. She looked around like she owned the place. I froze. What the hell was she doing here? I ducked behind a marble column, heart pounding. "Excuse me," I heard her say sweetly. "Is Marcus available? I'm an old friend." Old friend. My blood boiled. The front desk manager smiled politely. "I'm sorry Mr. Marcus isn't on site this week. Can I assist you?" Rachel tilted her head. "Who's the general manager now?" The manager looked at his screen. "That would be Mr. Thomas." "Thomas. Me." She blinked, confused, then smiled again, slower this time. "Oh, wonderful. We're old friends too." I stepped out from behind the column. She turned, and for the first time in months, I looked her in the eyes. She froze. Her smile twitched. I didn't say anything, just held her gaze. She opened her mouth, closed it, then gave a tiny laugh. "Wow," she said. "I guess things worked out for you after all? No apology, no shame. Just surprised that I hadn't fallen apart without her." "I guess they did," I said. She stepped forward. "Do you have time to—" "No," I cut her off. Silence. I nodded at the door. "This place doesn't allow walk-ins without bookings. You'll have to leave." Her lips parted, but she didn't argue. For once, she didn't have a clever comeback. She turned, rolled her suitcase away, and I stood there, chest rising and falling like I'd just finished a sprint. Not because I was angry, not because I was bitter, but because I'd finally realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to prove anything to her. I had already won Chapter 3, becoming the man they didn't expect. There's a strange kind of silence that comes after a storm, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind. The kind that hangs in the air, reminding you everything has changed and nothing can go back to how it was. That's how it felt after Rachel left the resort. I didn't feel triumph. Not really. I didn't feel like I'd proven anything to her or to my family or to anyone else, but I did feel something I hadn't in a long, long time. Solid. Like I wasn't made of glass anymore. For weeks, I buried myself in the job. Managing the resort was more than a role. It was a test of every part of me that I never knew existed. I dealt with staff drama, broken AC units, spoiled celebrities demanding last-minute treatment rooms, lost luggage, vendor delays, and even a drunk guest who wandered into the kitchen at 2 a.m. looking for spiritual enlightenment through cheese. And through it all, I figured it out. I became good at it. I started learning names. Every housekeeper, every line cook, every security guard. I memorized guest preferences. I cut costs without cutting quality. I fired a lazy operations manager and promoted a quiet woman from maintenance who ended up being a logistics genius. I rewrote how we handled bookings and earned the resort 5 stars on every major platform. Marcus noticed. "You're a machine," he said during one of his check-ins. "This place has never run like this. I don't even need to be here anymore." I smiled. "You already weren't," I said. He laughed. "You know what I mean. You took it and turned it into something. I didn't give you a gift. I handed you a grenade. You disarmed it and built a palace." We sat on the rooftop bar that evening, overlooking the mountains. "You think your old man would be proud of this?" Marcus asked. I thought about it for a moment. "No," I said, "but I think I finally am." He raised his glass, to the man they didn't expect. I clinked mine to his, to the friend who stayed. After that night, everything moved fast. Marcus asked me to oversee a second property in the city, then a third on the coast. I started flying between them, managing systems, building teams, replicating what we'd created. I hired people I trusted, trained them, paid them what they were worth, and the money started coming in. Not just the salary, bonus percentages, shares. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just getting paid, I was earning equity. I bought my own apartment. Clean, quiet sunlight pouring through the windows every morning. No one gave it to me. No one signed it over in a will. It was mine. I didn't talk to my sister. I didn't answer when she texted 6 months later asking how I was doing. I saw her name on the screen and realized something that shocked me. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just distance. She was part of an old life, one I'd outgrown. I never responded. And as for Rachel, her name came up again one day. A friend of a friend mentioned she was traveling a lot now, always showing up with someone new, trying to start a fashion brand that no one could quite figure out. "Still beautiful, though," the friend said with a shrug. I nodded politely and changed the subject, because that too had faded. Her absence didn't ache anymore. Her betrayal wasn't a scar, it was a fact, one I had accepted and outlived. And somewhere along the way, I stopped looking back. I stopped comparing myself to who I was supposed to be, because I was becoming someone better, someone I respected. Chapter 4, Rewriting the Rules. I used to think power was loud. Fast cars, expensive suits, grand gestures, handshakes and glass towers. But standing in the center of a boardroom with 10 executives waiting on my decision, I realized real power was quiet. It was being the man whose words didn't need volume to carry weight. It was clarity. It was knowing what to say, when to say it, and having people trust you when you did. It had been almost a year since I took over that first property. Now I was overseeing 5. Marcus and I had become more than friends. We were partners. He handled investments, I handled operations. He called me his clean hands, the one who could walk into a storm and leave it better than it was. I had an assistant now, a driver sometimes. I stopped looking at price tags. I started paying off debt I didn't even realize I was carrying, not just financial, but emotional. Still, some nights I'd lie awake and remember the moment everything broke. My father's letter, Rachel at the door, the humiliation, the emptiness, the way it all just evaporated. And I'd ask myself the same quiet question: what would I have become if they hadn't left me behind? Maybe I'd still be waiting for permission to matter, but they did leave me. And that became the very thing that freed me. I stopped living in reaction to other people's expectations. I stopped asking for validation from ghosts. I started building something that had my name on it, not because someone handed it to me, but because I showed up every damn day and earned it. And then something happened I didn't expect. I met someone. Not like before. Not the kind of person who only saw what I could give. Her name was Ava. She wasn't impressed by money. In fact, when we first met, she thought I was one of the staff. I was checking inventory at the downtown property when she walked in, a friend of a guest who'd gotten sick and needed help getting back to their room. I offered to walk her. She looked at me sideways. "You don't look like housekeeping." I laughed. "That's because I'm not. I'm the one they call when things break." "Everything broken today?" she asked. "Just a few things." "Then I guess you're lucky," she said. "I come from a world where everything's broken." I liked her instantly. She didn't ask what I did. She didn't care about my watch or the fact that I had my own parking space. We had coffee the next morning, then dinner, then a walk. She didn't rush. She didn't play games. She listened, really listened. And when I told her my story, she didn't flinch or pretend to fix it. She just said, "Sounds like you rebuilt yourself without instructions. That's the kind of man people write books about." I don't know what Ava will become to me. Maybe something permanent, maybe not. But for the first time, I don't feel like I need to force the ending because I've already rewritten the beginning. A few weeks later, Marcus invited me to a private gala. Suits, speeches, champagne towers, not my kind of night, but he wanted to introduce me to some new partners. That's when I saw them, my sister, Rachel, together, talking, laughing. The room got smaller, not because I cared, but because I didn't. Not anymore. Rachel turned and saw me. She froze. My sister noticed, whispered something. They both stared. I didn't blink. Rachel took a step toward me, half a smile on her face. I turned away. Ava slid her hand into mine and whispered, "Everything okay?" I nodded. Everything's exactly as it should be. Chapter 5, Mine. Finally. There was a time, not long ago, when I thought the only way to win was to get everything back. The money, the girl, the respect, to prove them all wrong, to walk into a room like the man they never believed I could be and make them regret every second of doubt. But standing there, her hand in mine, watching the past try to stare me down, I realized I didn't want anything back because I'd built something better, something that was mine. The gala ended with applause and toasts. I nodded where I needed to, shook the right hands, smiled for the photos. But my mind wasn't in the lights or the wine, it was back in that cold little apartment from a year ago. That night, I opened the will. That night, Rachel left. That night, Marcus called. The night everything collapsed, so I could finally stand. Marcus and I stepped onto the balcony after midnight, the city stretching below us like it finally belonged to us, not the people who used to keep us on the edge of their world. "You remember what she said?" he asked suddenly. "Your ex." I looked at him, eyebrows raised. "Which part?" He smirked. "That she was going to be mine, that you were nothing." I laughed, but there was no bitterness left in it, just quiet understanding. "She thought money was everything." "It is," he said, then added, "until you realize what it can't buy. Like loyalty, like integrity, like knowing who you are when nobody's clapping." We didn't say much more that night. We didn't need to. The next day, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, from my sister. "You've done well, better than any of us expected. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I want you to know I admire you, and I'm sorry." I stared at the page for a long time. It didn't feel like closure, not really, but it felt like acknowledgement, and sometimes that's enough. I never wrote her back. Instead, I spent that weekend visiting every one of my properties, shaking hands with staff, sitting in the kitchens, asking what they needed, what they were proud of, what they dreamed of. Because somewhere along the way, this job stopped being about saving myself. It became about building something that lets other people rise too. Ava came with me to the last one. We sat on the deck of a cliffside retreat, overlooking the ocean. She leaned against my shoulder and whispered, "You don't seem like the man you used to talk about." "I'm not," I said. "You miss him?" I shook my head. I buried him, along with everything he thought he needed. She kissed me. Simple. Quiet. Real. And that's when I knew. I hadn't just gotten lucky. I had lost everything. Every single thing that was never really mine to begin with. And in the ruins, I built a life with no borrowed pieces, no inherited power, no fake love, no stolen praise. I built a life that began the day they gave up on me. And now it's mine.